We are ever so excited today.
That was the most unenthused, like no one is buying that. We are so excited.
We're setting out to start a business from scratch and bring it to profit within 60 days. The risks are real, failure is an option, and even we don't know what's going to happen next. This is 60 Days Startup.
In the course of one episode, we went from having an entirely new product to it's on sale.
Right.
And we have ads running for it.
We're going to walk you guys through our OneBook sales funnel. And one thing we didn't really get to mention a whole lot because it's been happening behind the scenes, but we have an actual shipment of OneBook coming to us now.
Yeah.
So have you ever heard of the paradox of choice?
There's a ton of really interesting things that can happen psychologically to your buyer as they go through the funnel, right? Sometimes they need emotional encouragement, sometimes they need logical reasoning, and there's a lot of different things that can be presented to them that can either push them down that funnel or make them want to escape.
Generally, we tend to assume that by having more things to look at or more options, we will reach more people. I think that's sort of a natural assumption.
Oh, yeah.
But the paradox of choice brings up the possibility that that might not be so.
And what you end up building for your buyer is this sort of inevitable buyer's remorse. They can't click that buy now button because there's like, but wait, what if but I could have, this might not be the best one.
Right. We've discovered an element of the paradox of choice with OneBook.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yeah.
So let's go to the grocery and maybe do a little illustration of this.
Let's do it.
So let's talk about something called the choice paradox. Now, if you haven't heard about this before, it's this idea that giving people more options actually results in a worse buying experience. Typically people think, hey, more choices is better. I want as many options as possible. But if you think about it, think about going to the grocery store to buy something like peanut butter. The choice is really easy. You either get creamy or you get crunchy. And you know who you are if you're a creamy person or a crunchy person. The choice is super easy.
But when you're shopping for pasta sauce, that's where the choice paradox really hits in because you have all of this to choose from. Now, if you're like me, this is utter chaos, right? Fresh mushroom, Italian sausage and garlic, traditional. What does traditional even mean? Sometimes I look at this and I just leave home getting Alfredo or getting no pasta at all because I have no idea what I'm going to choose. Peanut butter, pretty easy. Pasta sauce, you lost me as a customer.
So right now you're probably thinking, what the heck does peanut butter and pasta sauce have to do with a custom-made journal?
Other than lunch.
Yeah. And that actually sounds like a real gross lunch, to be honest.
It does.
Presenting your buyer with more options actually makes it harder for them to choose, right? And something that we noticed with OneBook is that we were giving people all these really cool things to choose about their journal.
Yeah, there's tons and tons and tons of options that are possible as you go through that OneBook funnel, use the customizer, all that kind of thing. Yeah. Over 70% of people have selected one specific version.
And not only did people build that version, but the people who built that version were more likely to buy.
Yeah, even though we have a lot of interactions through that customizer actually tends to create more cart abandons than it does people who just go straight through. And we know this for certain because
about maybe a week in, I came to Michael and I said, hey, people are choosing this one version. What if we spun up an entirely different sort of mini funnel inside the funnel and drove people to a OneBook page that only pitched this one version?
And what we saw after just running that for honestly 4 days, but now it's been about a week, was that the funnel that had just one version of OneBook and sold you on the benefits of that version was doubling our conversion to sales.
Oh yeah. If you've been following us, you might be thinking, well, hey, OneBook was built on this entire idea of building a custom journal for yourself. But what we really found was is that there's actually this portion of the market that was not being served, and we got to find out exactly what kind of journal most of them wanted through our customization tool. And we can serve the market by making the best version of this one thing and not present people with an intimidating amount of choices.
Right.
We started with a leather cover,
Yeah.
and we ended up with a book.
Yep.
So we got the OneBook part of OneBook. And then we started out with a ton of different versions and ended up with one.
Yeah. Yeah. We should have just listened to our own name
I know, yeah.
to start with.
Yeah.
We've now officially kind of put all of our efforts behind this singular funnel,
Yeah.
and it's running really, really well.
Yep.
So in this episode, we want to kind of walk you through how that's going, what we're doing, and we want to show you the OneBook prototype that we finally have in our hands. It's been a long time coming,
It has.
and 2 versions now.
Right.
But we finally have our first prototype of the actual book version of OneBook. When you order a prototype of something like this, they don't typically use like full production quality when they're giving this to you because it's a one-off, right? So you'll get really close to it, you can make the little tweaks, and then you need to go do a giant order of at least 500, 1,000 large quantities of this item to get sort of the production quality you want.
Right.
So that being said, we're super happy with this prototype that we received,
Sure.
and we want to show it to you right now.
Where'd that come from?
It's magic. It just appeared from nowhere.
It's amazing. If only it was that easy.
So this is our initial prototype here of OneBook. It doesn't have the logo foil stamping on it, but the final version will.
Yep.
But it's got our holder here. It's got the gold ribbon bookmark we were looking for. And the inside is just a dream to write in, which was
Yep.
the big goal for us.
Yeah, we made sure to specify really thick, high quality paper to make sure that there was no bleed with different kinds of pens, really smooth writing experience, really good margins. I was a little concerned about that since I hadn't laid out a book before.
Sure.
I gotta say, I'm super impressed, and I'm ready to see that bulk order
Yeah.
that we actually just placed.
Yep. Well, let's talk about that bulk order. For us, it was a brand new experience to be able to develop, create, and find a manufacturer for a physical product like this.
If you haven't done a physical product before and you're jumping into this thing like we did where you're making your own physical product with the manufacturer,
Yep.
that is just the beginning of the story.
So first, you have to have an idea, right? You take the idea, you plot it out, and you say, this is what I want to make. Who can make it?
And once you find some potential manufacturers, they have their own language and vocabulary that you kind of have to speak. You have to deliver them the right files
Yep.
in the right format. And they all have certain sort of specifications that you need to meet.
You can get to where they'll give you a pricing
Right.
on a certain number of units at your specifications.
Right.
And we went through, I say we, mostly it was Paul, went through an entire kind of spectrum of different manufacturers and different pricings to find one that would fit the profit margin we knew we needed to have to make this successful.
And so when you're playing that physical product game, there's a lot of these considerations to make. And that's before you even get to the whole logistics and fulfillment side of things. So essentially, when they give you pricing, in addition to order quantity and specifications, you also have to tell them, where are you going to put this when you're done with it? And that's an entire other facet of pricing that you're going to have to worry about. Eventually, you need to involve another third-party logistics team to get it from whoever your manufacturer or supplier is to either your office or to whoever your fulfillment team is, which is, again, is the next chapter in the story.
So for us, we decided after having done fulfillment for a number of artists and clients, literally here in the office, right? You know, pack and ship CDs and all kinds of things we've done here. We said, that's great, but that's not what our expertise is. We create the product, get the manufacturer to do it, we get a team to ship it to us, and us is now going to be a fulfillment center.
That's right.
There's lots of different companies that do this, but basically their expertise is they see the order come in, they see the amount of product that needs to go and who it needs to go to, and they ship it out for us. And basically just tack on a small fee on top of the cost of the product, billed to us to be able to ship and fulfill that item. Something to really think about if you're moving into this process, really focus in on what you do well and realize that there are are all of these other entities that are around there that can help do these other pieces. I know some people might be worried that like, well, if I involve all these other parties, isn't that going to take away from my profit margin?
Right.
The answer is yes. But the goal here is not to always have the biggest profit margin you could possibly imagine. If you can only sell 100 books a month because you're personally package shipping them, like what does it matter?
Exactly.
You know, you might as well not have any profit margin at all because you've limited yourself to a ceiling. So that's been our goal this entire time, is how do we get all this to run as fluidly as possible and do what we do best, which is going to be make, build, and sell.
Now that we have the process put together, let's pour some gas in it.
Let's do it. Where do we put that gasoline? It's over here somewhere.
Gosh. You know, something really interesting has happened a couple times over the course of this entire series.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times where we've said, hey, we're going to do this, and we have tried it, and it hasn't really worked out the way we thought. And it can be really hard when you have those realizations of like, I said, this is what I was going to do, and that didn't turn out to be the best thing. Now I have more information. But there's that little bit of you that like, I don't know, is ashamed to like publicly come out and change your mind.
Sure. Or even just to come out and make that change, even if it's the best for the company. And that's something that I think comes up all the time that entrepreneurs stumble on. The like value over ego proposition.
Oh yeah.
You know, can I suck it up to realize that this isn't about me and my idea, this is about what's going to work in a business. And do I want this business to work enough that I'm okay with just like slash and burning some stuff if I need to move the business forward?
As far as I'm concerned, if I change my mind because I have more information, then that is actually a big step forward.
Sure.
And that's what we've done a couple times to now, like you said, we're making better business decisions for the brand, for the product, based on this information that we had. And I think you said it when you were on the phone with a client just yesterday. You said, hey, anytime you turn the ship, some people are going to be up in arms a little bit. You're going to have some customers that are like, no, but that was what you said, and that was the perfect thing for me. But maybe they're 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000.
The minorities, the margins that might disagree with the way that you're shifting might be the only people you hear from.
Right.
You know, because people that like what you're doing don't speak with their voices, they typically speak with their wallets.
Yeah.
So you'll see sales, but not a whole lot of conversation. And then from the people who don't like what you just did, you'll hear.
Yeah.
You'll hear from them. So you have to kind of decide what metric you're going to use to evaluate whether that was a good decision or not.
Yeah.
In our case, I think the dollars and cents speak louder than any message we might have received.
For sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention the complexity that we avoided by turning a whole array of products into a single great product.
We're coming to the end here of the season, and next week is going to be either really interesting or a big surprise to everyone. So next week, we're going to show you how this all comes together, how we wrap up one book into one beautiful bow, and what happens when you build a business in 60 days.
We'll see you then.